Hello friends, as we all know, due to COVID-19 pandemic, all CBSE schools are functioning in virtual mode from the academic session 2020-21. Recently, CBSE introduced a special scheme of assessment for board examination of class 10th and 12th for the session 2021-22. As per CBSE, the academic session to be divided into two terms, term 1 and term 2, in which if you consider the assessment purpose, in term 1 only objective type questions will come, and in term 2 both objective and subjective type questions will come, and that will be conducted in the month of March to April. And depending on the COVID-19 situation, the question pattern may be of purely objective type for term 2 also. In term 1, only objective type questions will come, that will be conducted during the month of November to December. In objective type questions, 4 different type of questions will come: case-based study questions, multiple choice questions, assertion and reasoning type questions, and true-false type questions. In this video, we will specially focus on what is true-false type questions and what are the parameters or rules to be considered while framing true-false questions. Okay friends, let's start the lesson. So our objective of this lesson is to know what is true-false type questions, what are the nature of true-false type questions, advantages of true-false type questions, and the parameters or the rules to be considered while framing true-false type questions. What are the parameters a teacher should observe or to know so that he or she will frame a good true-false type questions. And then we will do some activity, some questions will be there and you have to answer them. So let's start. What is true-false types questions? It is an objective type questions presented in the form of simple declarative statement to which the pupils respond, indicating whether the statement is true or false. It is an objective type questions. Objective type questions means the questions length will be very little, only 1 or 2 lines questions will be there, and one statement will be given to them. Student will just respond whether the statement is true or false. What the definition mean to say, students will be given one statement and they will respond whether the statement is true or false. In other words, we can say there are only 2 possible responses for each item and the student chooses between them. Now, what are the nature of true-false types questions? It is a binomial choice question. Binomial choice question means the question having 2 choices. Binomial means 2 choices. A question that have only 2 options, true or false. For this, it is also called as an alternative response question. These true-false questions are also called as alternative response questions. True-false questions present a statement and prompt the students to choose whether the statement is truthful, means student will verify the given statement whether it is true or false by using their knowledge and understanding. Now comes to advantages of true-false questions. What are the advantages for a teacher to prepare true-false questions and what are the advantages for the student? Why a student should answer the true-false type questions or practice the true-false type questions. Number 1 is relatively easy to write and develop. This type of questions are relatively easy to write and develop. Means, since these questions are maximum 1 or 2 lines generally, teacher can prepare the questions very easily. Point number 2. Very quick to score. Since answer contains only 1 letter, so a teacher can easily check the answer sheets of maximum number of students in a small span of time. Third point is objective nature limits bias in scoring. Sometimes what happens, because of biasness for some known or unknown reasons, we face some problems while scoring subjective type questions. As a teacher, we face some problems. But this situation will not arise in objective type questions. That's why It limits the biasness in the scoring purposes. It can be easily administered to a large number of students. Since all questions will be 1 or 2 lines, in a page or 2, we can have more than 40 questions to administer, and because of its easy ways to check, a large number of students can be assessed by this method. That's why it will easily administered to a large number of students. Next point is effective as either a written or oral assessment. Means students can be asked in written form or orally in classroom situations also. That's why it is very effective. Sometimes we have few students who are with poor handwriting, and because of it, we face a lot of problem in checking their copies. But while administering true-false questions, this problem reduced to a large extent. That's why it limits bias due to poor writing or reading skills. Next one is highly efficient as a large amount of knowledge can be sampled in a short amount of time. Since the questions are of 1 or 2 lines, we can frame different type of questions from a vast content, and to know the answers correctly, the students have to go through all the areas on which we are asking the questions. That's why a large amount of knowledge can be sampled in a short amount of time. It is amenable to item analysis, which allows for improvement of the assessment device. While analyzing the student's performance or our test type, it is easier for us to do the work. So these are the advantages of true-false questions, why a student should prepare and why a child should answer. Now, let us know the different parameters to be considered or the rules to be considered while framing a true-false questions. Means, when we prepare true-false questions, what are the things we should focus so that we can frame a large number of good questions? Rule number 1, do not give a hint in the body of the question. Don't give a hint in the body of the question. Here I am having one example for you. The example is like this. The Philippines gained its independence in 1998 and therefore celebrated its centennial year in 2000. Here the year is given, it is nearly equal to 2000. The students will easily guess the statement is true. So here one hint is given, but the question should be like this. The revised question will be, the Philippines gained its independence on the year 1898. Now the student will think whether it will be 1898 or it will be 1998. Okay, now comes to Rule 2. Avoid trick statements with some minor misleading word or spelling anomaly, misplaced phrases, etc. We have to avoid some spelling mistakes or misplaced phrases like this. Just one example for you. The principal of our school is Mr. N.K. Naik. Here the word principal is not written correctly. This may create problem for the child. So the correct question would be like this. The principal of our school is Mr. N.K. Naik. That means we should avoid the misspelling words or the misplaced phrases. Now comes to Rule 3. Avoid using the word always, never, often, and other adverbs that tend to be either always true or always false. The sentence having the words always, never, often, this type of sentence we should not frame. Let us see an example. Christmas always falls on a Sunday because it is a Sabbath day. What is the meaning of Sabbath day actually? It is a day of religious observance and abstinence from work kept by Jewish people from Friday evening to Saturday evening and by most Christians on Sunday. So Sabbath day is a hint here, and we are saying always falls on a Sunday. So the correct question will be like this. This year Christmas falls on a Sunday. Now the student will think whether the answer is true or false. Now comes to the next one. Rule 4. Don't use double negatives. For example, bread and grain are not at the top of the food pyramid. We know bread and grain are not on the top of the food pyramid. Here bread and grain are at the bottom of the food pyramid. This is a negative sentence, and again we are using not here. So double negative sentence is like this. The question should be framed in this way. The revised question will be bread and grains are at the top of the food pyramid. So this is now a single negative statement. Now comes to the next one. Rule 5. Avoid long sentences as these tends to be true. For example, suppose I am giving a question like this. Tests need to be valid, reliable and useful, although it would require a great amount of time and effort to ensure that test possesses these test characteristics. So here we are giving a very long sentence which will be, the students may face difficulties in reading the long text, whereas the question should be like this. Test needs to be valid, reliable and useful. No need to write all these details in your questions. Now comes to the next one. Rule 6. Avoid using more than one idea in a true-false questions. Make your main point prominent. For example, all spiders have exoskeletons and only prey on insects. Here we are having two ideas, exoskeletons and prey on insects. So if a student will know about exoskeletons, he or she can answer correctly. If a student will know who are taking prey on insects, who are depending the prey on insects, the student answers correctly. Okay, here actually we are giving two hints to the students. The question should be like this. All spiders have exoskeletons. Now the students will think and we can judge whether the student or the particular child is knowing about the concept of exoskeletons or not. Now comes to rule 7. Statements should always be clearly true or false. Don't use items which involve controversial material or rely on personal opinion. Statements should be always clearly true or false. There should not be any personal opinion. For example, suppose I am framing a question like this. Sachin Tendulkar is a good batsman. So this good is not defined here. Whether the good batsman is such a batsman who scores all his or her match and more than 90 runs he or she scores, then he or she will be called as a good batsman. The term good is not defined here. That means the student's answer depends on the personal opinion. So this type of question should not be in the framing of a true-false questions. Now some common parameters to be considered while framing a true-false questions. Number 1, avoid quoting verbatim from reference materials or textbooks. Verbatim means exactly the same word as were used originally. So we should not copy the sentence as it is from the book, because if a student will by heart the things without understanding, this will not help a teacher to assess his or students. That's why we have to avoid the direct sentence from the textbook. Use simple grammatical structure. This will be easier for the child to understand the question and will be able to answer. A general practice, keep variety of proportions of true and false statements. What does it mean? It means, suppose first time we give 20 questions to our child, true-false questions, where 11 are true and 9 are false. Next time also we are administering 20 questions to our child in which 11 are true and 9 are false. So third time when you will administer 20 questions to the child, the thing will be in the mind of the child that definitely in this test 11 questions will be true and 9 questions will be false. So, we should keep a variety of proportions of true and false statements in the different tests so that student cannot guess. Keep your sentence reasonably short or restrict them to have one central area. Try using in combination with other materials such as graphs, maps, written materials, etc. It's not that only some sentence will be given and student will write whether it is true or false. We can associate this, we can combine this with other materials such as graphs, maps and some written materials also. Next point is avoid negative and complicated statements. These things already we have discussed. Negative sentence should not be there in the question. Don't consistently make true statements longer than false statements or vice versa. What does it mean? If we consistently ask true statements longer than false statements, students will answer all such type questions as true without even reading the questions thoroughly. That's why we should avoid this. Next point is, if we wish to score with negative marking, state so in the directions. Sometimes suppose as a teacher we want to introduce negative markings. This means suppose a particular student is secured or having correct questions 10 and wrong questions 5, then the particular students will secure 5 marks instead of 10. So if you want to score with negative marking, these things should be directed initially. Okay friends, hope you understood the details about my lesson, how to prepare the true-false questions, what are the natures of true-false questions, what are the advantages of true-false questions, and what are the parameters or rules on which a teacher should work to frame a good number of true-false type questions. So it takes time now. For each question or pair of questions, decide what is wrong or which item is better and why. So 2 statements will be given to you. You have to choose which question will be better and why it is better. Okay, let's start. The first question is like this. 2 statements are given. 1A, according to your textbook, alcoholism is a disease. True or false? The question may be like this. Alcoholism is a disease. True or false? Now, which is the better question here and why is it better? You just think, I am giving you for 20 seconds and after 20 seconds I will show you the answers. The main point is 2 statements are given to you, 2 same questions in different languages are given to you. You have to choose which is the better questions here, whether it is 1A or 1B, and why is it better. Okay, I am giving few seconds for you. You just pause your video and think. Okay, the correct answer is 1A is better. Why? Because the statement in 1B is an opinion. Alcoholism is a disease. Here it is given according to your textbook. If in our textbook it is given that alcoholism is a disease, student can easily understand and can write the answer. But if you simply say alcoholism is a disease, so it totally depends on the opinion. Some may say true, some may say false. So 1A is the better question for this example. Now the second question for you. 2A says the true-false questions which is favored by all test experts is also called an alternative response question. The second question is like this. The true-false questions are also called an alternative response question. Same pattern. Which is the better question out of these 2 and why is it better? Take 20 seconds to answer yourself. Just pause your video, think and answer yourself. After few seconds, I will show you the answer. Okay, the answer is 2B is better. Why? Because 2A contains two ideas and therefore is confusing. Here two ideas are given, true false questions which is favored by all test experts, this is one idea, and also called alternative response question, this is another idea. So two ideas are here, we should avoid this. Now comes to the third one. Three statements are given, three questions. 3A, COVID-19 is a communicable disease. Second part, COVID-19 is not a non-communicable disease. So same pattern, which is the better question and why is it better? Just think for 20 seconds and answer yourself. Pause your video and think and answer yourself. After few seconds, I am writing the answers. Okay, friends? The answer will be 3A is better. Why? Because 3B is confusing because of its double negative. Here, not is used and non is also used. So this is a double negative sentence. So we should avoid double negative sentence as we have already discussed in our parameters or rules presentation. Double negative should be avoided. Okay, friends? Hope you understood the lessons. If not, go through the lesson again. Thank you very much.